Alrighty, well, everybody's finding their place. I am going to introduce myself. My name is Melissa Moore, and I have the honor of being the Executive Director of Reed Muskegon. So on behalf of everyone at Reed Muskegon, I want to thank the candidates that are here tonight for all of the races, our community members, our partners at Michigan's Children, and the Michigan Adult Community and Alternative Education Association for joining us tonight in the heart of Muskegon Heights. Right now, in the United States, 54% of our adults read at or below a 6th grade level, which means they are reading at levels too low for them to be successful in a lot of today's jobs that pay a living wage, too low for them to really adequately support their child's education success, and too low for them to make informed decisions when they're getting involved in civic activities like voting. The literacy crisis in our country is not just an issue that has happened between the walls of our K-12 education. There are a lot of other root causes, barriers, systems that are major contributing factors. So we've invited candidates here tonight to engage in conversation with some of our community members to talk about their lived experience around some of these issues, ask some questions with the hope that our candidates, if they're elected, will become supporters in creating change by supporting policy, supporting funding streams, helping to raise awareness. Ultimately, our goal is that all Muskegon County residents have the opportunity to reach their full potential through our education system. So tonight, again, welcome to everybody. I know you're not here to listen to me speak, and I want to hear this conversation get started. So I am going to introduce to you Matt Gillard from Michigan's Children.
Thank you, Melissa. I am Matt Gillard. I'm the president and CEO of Michigan's Children. Michigan's Children is a nonprofit child policy advocacy organization. We're based out of Lansing, and our goal is the pursuit of public policies in the best interest of children and families, really from cradle through career. In furtherance of that goal, or in an effort to attain that goal, we think it's critically important for policymakers, decision makers, and in this case, candidates for office, to hear directly from young people and from families in their communities about the issues that are important to them. So one of the things we've been known for years at Michigan's Children is our Kids Speak and Family Speak events, where we put young people and families directly in front of policymakers and elected officials and others to talk about issues that are important to them. And about 4 election cycles now ago, we kind of broadened that into the campaign side as well. We really view campaigns and elections as a huge advocacy opportunity, and an opportunity for us to engage with our local partners and people who care about kids and families throughout Michigan with candidates for office. And so we host a series of these every election season. We just did one earlier this afternoon in Detroit with a bunch of candidates for state representative or state offices in the Detroit area. We're here tonight. We'll be in Battle Creek Wednesday, I think Royal Oak Thursday, and traveling around the state here in the next few weeks, hosting candidate forums with community partners throughout the state in order to have some real conversations and discussions about issues that are facing young people and families throughout our state. So in that vein, I want to thank Melissa and Reed Muskegon and Patrick Brown with the Michigan Association of Community, Adult, and Alternative Education for partnering with us to put on this event. I'll explain kind of briefly the setup tonight and the forum and the rules and how this is going to work, and then I'll turn it over to our MC for the evening, Patrick. So we're going to separate this because we have candidates from the county level to the state level to the congressional candidates as well into 3 different segments. So we're going to start first with the candidates for county commission that have been all candidates for county commission here in Muskegon County have been invited to attend tonight. We'll run each one of these segments like you'd see a typical candidate forum. Each candidate will be given a 1-minute opening statement. Then they'll be asked questions from the community, from the audience. Each candidate will get a chance to respond to that question in 1 minute as well. And then at the end, we'll give 1-minute closing statements to all of the candidates as well. Collie Montgomery from our team is sitting right up front here. She's got a yellow folder and a red folder. She'll hold the yellow folder up when we got about 15 seconds left in our minute, and then when she'll hold the red folder up when your minute's up. We trust that the candidates will not make Collie stand up and enforce the rules too strongly here. We do have a lot of candidates, obviously. We want to give everybody equal opportunity, and like I said, we have candidates for other offices coming later. So that's really, the gist of it. We really want to hear from folks in the community about their issues, and we want to give the candidates an opportunity to talk about some potential solutions and how they might see their work go going if they are successful in their campaigns. I think that's about it. Like I said, I have one more thing. We do have another partner that we work with on all of these events is the Think Babies Michigan initiative, and we have materials around the Think Babies Michigan. This is a group of advocates that are really focused on infants and toddlers and really driving policy solutions for making better government, better opportunities for infants and toddlers and families with young children in Michigan. There's some materials on the back table for Think Babies, including one of them is specifically about engaging candidates in the election process. And so there's some helpful tips back there for that as well. All right, thank you. Patrick, it's on you.
All right. Well, thank you all for being here. We're actually ahead of schedule, which is, I think, a good sign, a good omen for the day. I'm Patrick Brown. I'm Executive Director of the Michigan Adult Community and Alternative Education Association. So we're the statewide organization that helps to provide professional development, policy, research, connections, as well as advocacy for all of the providers across the state, about 118 that serve in some capacity with adult learners. So I'm excited to be here. And I wanted just to share a little bit of information and add context, like to what Melissa said about the adult education landscape in our state. So every year we serve about 25,000 learners within the state of Michigan that are from early adult basic education all the way through completing their high school diploma, high school equivalency, or those that are English language learners that are looking to increase their English language proficiency. Many of those adult learners, as we know, are looking for employment opportunities or are transitioning to post-secondary opportunities, and our state has done great investments in the last few years around those particular areas. What's probably most significant for you to know, though, is that there are nearly 500,000 adults in Michigan who would qualify for adult education services, and each year we serve about 25,000, as I said. So the need is great, and programs like Read Muskegon, as well as the others in West Michigan, are really filling that need and looking to do that. So I hope we have a great discussion this evening. I'm going to give you 3 quick social media connections. One is you can learn more about our organization, MACAE, at www.macae.org. If you're also looking for an adult education provider within the entire state, you can go to the website www.michigan.gov/learn more, earn more. You can, you or anyone that's looking for a service can put in their zip code and it will populate the nearest location to them. And then if you're on social media, I would encourage you to look for West Michigan Adult Education. That's on Facebook, and you can find any information about any of the providers in the 13-county area here in West Michigan and learn more about the services that they have. So we're ready to get started, all right? So I'd like to introduce each of our candidates. If you could just go down and introduce your name quickly, you'll have an opportunity here in a moment to talk about your introduction, but let's just start with the names first and which candidacy you're running for. If you'd like to start. Yep.
Okay, is it on? Oh.
It is.
Hi, my name is Michelle Hazekamp, and I am running for County Commissioner for the 3rd District. That would be Fruitport, Sullivan Township, and a portion of Norton Shores.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Doug Brown. I am the current County Commissioner here for District 8, which is North Muskegon, Laketon Township, part of Dalton, part of Fruitland. But with the new redistricting, I am looking to run to have some of that area and then also surrounding around Muskegon and the Lakeshore Muskegon.
Hello, good evening, and thank you. I'm Marcia Hovey Wright, and I'm the current commissioner of the 2nd District, which includes Muskegon, Roosevelt Park, and the 10th. I'm running for the 10th district. Excuse me, the 4th district, which includes the western half of Muskegon, Roosevelt Park, and the western half of Norton Shores. So that's a new. So I'm running for my 3rd term.
Hi, I'm Dan Potts. I'm also running for District 4 for the area that Marcia just talked about, Norton Shores, Roosevelt Park, and the west part of Muskegon.
Good evening. My name is Darrell Paige. I am running for the newly formed 7th District, the district vacated by former Commissioner Willis Wilkins. that serves Muskegon Heights, a portion of Muskegon, and a portion of Norton Shores.
I'm Bruce Froelich. I'm from the city of Montague, and I'm running in an area that includes 5.5 townships. It's Fruitland, north of Duck Lake, all of Dalton, Blue Lake, White River, Whitehall Township, Montague Township, and those two cities, all in the northern part of the county, and it's now called District 1.
Hi, my name is Ashley Podein, and I am running for District 3. As was discussed previously, that includes Fruitport Township, the village of Fruitport, Sullivan Township, and a new section of Norton Shores.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming tonight. I'm Jessica Cook. I am a candidate for District 6, which is North Muskegon, Laketon Township, the southern part of Fruitland Township, and then parts of Jackson Hill and Nelson neighborhood, basically all of the downtown neighborhoods that touch Shoreline Drive in the city of Muskegon.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much. So we're going to start with opening candidate remarks. And so I would invite all of you, we're going to start actually with Bruce here. We're going to go in numerical order by the commission seats, but share a little bit about yourself and your relation and your investment of how you would support adult skill building as it relates to adult learning. So go ahead, Bruce. 1 minute.
Thank you, Patrick. Retiring here in 2010 felt like coming home. I have one set of great-grandparents and their offspring who are buried up in Fremont, and a different set of great-grandparents with offspring buried here in Muskegon, and my family lived in Hart till I was 10, so I've got a lot of roots in West Michigan. My father is a graduate of Muskegon High School, and my wife and I, between us, have 5 children who have blessed us with 3 grandchildren. We've attended a church that has helped sponsor the Exit program and some of the meals that are put on by Reed Muskegon for people who are getting ready to leave the county jail and support them with literacy. And my wife and I both have volunteered at Martin Luther King School for reading with young children.
Great. Thank you so much. We'll go to Ashley next.
Me? Oh. My name is Ashley Podein, and again, sorry, I guess we already said that. My background is in social work. So I grew up I was born and raised in Spring Lake, and graduated from there, and then moved to Muskegon, where I coached softball for several years at Muskegon High School, and then coached girls basketball at Steele Middle School, and worked for the after-school and summer school program at Steele. I absolutely loved my time there and consider Muskegon more home for me than Spring Lake ever was. But I can say that in my time there, it definitely pushed me into social work. So I earned my bachelor's in social work, and then moved to Nashville, Tennessee for a few years, worked in mental health, and then came back and earned my master's in social work. And I believe in that journey. It really has helped me understand the value of people-driven policy.
Great. We're next going to go to Michelle, and I'm going to give you the microphone because I'm right here.
Okay, again, I'm Michelle Hazekamp. Now, I'm not originally from Muskegon. I grew up in Cedar Springs. However, my husband was born and raised here, and his family. I have been living here for the last 17 years with him, and I absolutely love Muskegon. My background, I have a degree in science and history. Me and my husband are small business owners. We've owned this business for 20 years. We own a trucking company. And I am a mother to 3 children. I have a 30-year-old daughter and a 19-year-old and a 17-year-old. I also have 4 beautiful grandchildren. I guess that's it.
Go ahead.
All right, we're actually going to go down here to Marcia.
Again, Marcia Hovey Wright, District to be District 4. I served on the, as a state representative, and I was chair of the Child and Family Services Committee, so we dealt with some of the issues that you are all addressing. I was also a Peace Corps teacher, and I taught English as a second language, so there's your language experience. When I was a school social worker, and I did that for 12 years, I worked with teenagers, I worked with adult ed program up in Holton. So I have a lot of experience. Right now, I'm chair of the Human Services Committee at the county. And I was trying to think of issues that have come up, and I can't at this point, but I certainly have the background to know what's going on and what is needed, so thank you. And I have a master's degree in social work and one in management.
Hi, all. I'm a lifelong resident. I grew up here in Muskegon. I graduated from Reese Puffer. I'm married. I have a wife of 30 years. We have 2 daughters. They're 20 and 24. They're both currently still in college. I'm a big believer in the importance of literacy and reading. It was probably the most important job that I had as a parent for them growing up, was to be able to spend time with them and to read with them. As I understand it, that's not a very simple thing to do for some people. So I think, learning about that barrier makes this a very important for us to know maybe more about the challenges that are faced by that. I was a high school coach. Prior to this, I coached volleyball at Fruitport, and I won a state championship. And I was also on the Mona Shore School Board, so I'm aware of some of the challenges from an education standpoint. Thank you.
Next to Jessica, and then if you can pass it Dan over here to Doug down here. Jessica, go ahead.
Great, thank you. I am running for county commission because it's time for a change at the commission level, and I think that the role that the county commission serves is really important in Muskegon County, and to some of our community organizations like Read Muskegon. We can be a connector and a convener to help solve problems like the ones that Read Muskegon is tackling, which is why this forum is so exciting to me. I have a 20-year career in nonprofit administration and community service. I currently work for a large philanthropic organization whose mission is to serve families and children throughout the country, and in Michigan especially. And I'm raising 2 readers myself. I have a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old. I learned to love reading by watching my parents read, and I hope that they gain some of that love of reading from me as well. But I understand that is not commonplace in the community. It really resonates with me that we have 23,000 functionally illiterate people in our county, and I'm excited to learn more about how we can help them together.
Thank you. Doug Brown for County Commissioner for 6. Married, have 2 wonderful children with 6 grandchildren. My wife and I have married of over 40 years. I've been a resident of Muskegon County for 35 years. Have a bachelor's degree in business and architecture from Ferris. So I always had the goal to get back to West Michigan, so very, very blessed to do that. My wife and I did foster work and adoption work. We did that for almost 10 years, different families in and out. If you've been foster parents, you know what that means. And reading was one of the main things that we were instrumental in working with. I am, as a county commissioner, now on the advisory for the Department of Health and Human Services here. Reese Puffer School Board for 22 years. I was a big advocate of getting reading specialists in and understand the importance of reading at a 3rd grade level and above. So thank you.
All right, Darrell, I think you're next. Jessica, if you want to pass that microphone down to him this way. Yep, great. Share. We do, yes, and we'll get to him just after Darrell here.
Again, my name is Darrell Paige, lifelong resident of Muskegon Heights. Graduated from Muskegon Heights High School. Went on to graduate from Grand Valley State University. Been married for 38 years. My lovely wife, Michelle Lloyd Paige. Have 3 children, the youngest being 33. So, I'm a little bit older. Worked in Muskegon Heights and Muskegon Public School systems in various positions, starting off as a youth coordinator for summer jobs and school jobs, also dean of students, also pupil service director, dean of students at Muskegon High School as well. And I know the advantage of reading at an early age and stuff because I saw it firsthand done in projects that we had in actually the elementary school and preschool and kindergarten. And that project actually went very well. Was kind of sad that they didn't continue it.
Wonderful. You want to pass the microphone down to our friend at the end here? If you want to introduce yourself, talk a little bit about the district that you're running for the commission, and talk a little bit about your experience working with adult education and adult learning.
Well, my name is Charles Nash. I'm currently the county commissioner for District number 6, and I'm running for District 5 with the new redistricting that we have coming up, which covers East Muskegon, a small portion of East Muskegon, and all of Muskegon Township. Actually, I've been on the commission for 6 terms. I'm seeking my 7th term. This district actually is almost a replica of the first district I ran for, almost exactly, except for a little bit of an area. I've been involved with the commission in working with in areas of literacy for years. Actually, I used to substitute before I even got into reentry programs in politics. So education has always been important to me. I even, I think about all the different programs that we've associated with. I mean, my concern now is more so that, we continue to find ways to encourage young people to get that education and stay in school. And a lot of that has to do with that literacy. But I think it's a different generation, and we have to figure out ways to entice them to be involved with that process, because we have so much with social media and everything else.
Thank you so much, Charles. We so appreciate that. And just a reminder that during that moment, we'll each have a minute to respond. So thank you so much for that, Charles. So we're now going to move into our community questions opportunity. So I believe we have 3 community questions from the audience. And so our candidates will all have an opportunity to respond. But again, sharing is caring, and so we're getting the flavor of the speed a little bit and the condensing of our asking the questions, and so we'd ask you to kind of keep your remarks to about that 1-minute mark. So I think we'll start with our first community question.
Hello.
It is.
Hi, my name is Katie O's, and I'm a parent to a 10 and 13-year-old in Muskegon County that attend public schools. I do a lot of work with the Parent Coalition of Muskegon County, and through this work have learned our parents need to be better supported. Research has proven that a parent's education is greatly impactful for their children's education and life successes. We know there are approximately 23,000 adults in Muskegon County who read at or below a basic reading level. There is a lot of pressure on them to engage in their children's learning in a way that may not be realistic or possible for them. In your opinion, what is the role of Muskegon County Board in contributing to solutions that address this issue?
Thank you so much. We'll start down the end there with Charles and work our way back down this way. So you got about a minute to respond.
Well, if we look at some of the things the county has done, we've also sponsored, collaborated with the college and sponsored in scholarship programs that try to encourage kids to stay in school. So now kids that stay in school and learn to graduate, they're able to get tuition-free schooling through MCC. We also have partnerships with our exit program for those that are doing reentry. I find that there's a lot of youth involved in that are not at those reading levels, and most of them not even in school. So we've partnered with programs to work with that exit program that can help collaborate that. There is a multitude of programs that the county has already been involved in, and I would also encourage Reed Muskegon to continue to work in those efforts, but maybe even collaborate with our efforts that we have with Michigan State University, Michigan State Extension, I'm sorry, which is also involved in a lot of educational programs. So those are things that we currently do, and those are some things
Wonderful.
I'm hoping we continue to do.
We'll move on to Jessica.
Great, thanks. As I said in my opening statement, I think the role of the county is as convener and connector. And I think the main reason that most of county government exists is to serve the people who live and work here. So county staff have a lot of interaction with parents and families in the community every day. So I think identifying and referring families that can use these literacy services is a #1 goal. Obviously, continuing to identify more ways to partner and support existing efforts, and continue to not duplicate. Help make sure that efforts are not being duplicated as well. Are all initial ideas that I have.
Thank you very much, Ashley.
All right. I agree with what Jessica had to say as well. I think collaboration and relationships are really the key to parents and services that are available within a community. But mostly, I think asking parents what they need to meet their children's needs, because they know their own capabilities much better than we do. And I think oftentimes we forget that when we are in a situation with a little bit more power or in a situation of government. Feedback from those we are serving should be our most important tool.
Bruce?
There are some hard realities about budgeting and the interface between the criminal justice system and people who have literacy issues. 75% of the folks in our jail are functionally illiterate. That means one of the things we can do as county commissioners is use our financial leverage to talk to probation officers, jail staff, judges, and others in interfacing in the criminal justice system, even public defenders, to make sure that literacy has a role in the sentencing process and the probationary process. Maintaining contact with the literacy program could become one of the conditions of probation, for example, in order to directly incentivize people who otherwise are going to cost all of us more money down the road. It is practical, it saves money, and it exerts our leverage from the county budget.
Thank you very much. Darrell?
Thank you. I guess you're going to hear resoundingly that collaboration is part of the solution, and it is. But you got to remember to identify your audience, who your audience is, and what those individuals actually need. You have a lot of services that's out there in the county that can be connected, and a lot of adults don't know that and stuff. But in order for them to get a good understanding and get that information and get that education to help their children, we're going to have to get that to them.
Great. Go ahead, Dan.
I would agree the collaboration point is really well taken. I had done a little bit of research, at least prior to this, in talking to our school system about how they collaborate with the county, and at this point in time, it doesn't really happen as vibrantly as what it could. So when you talk about a problem, really the literacy problem, and the biggest challenge is really, I think, is catching it early on. But I think the point, or the big question that you really asked is how do we become aware of it? How does the public become aware of it? Because I'm not so sure that it's that known. So it's being able to identify it. So.
Great. Go ahead, Marcia.
So, given the figures that you gave us about literacy or illiteracy, the extent of it, is very concerning, because literacy is a prime factor in whether somebody goes to prison, whether they're able to get a job, keep a job, et cetera. It's a basic skill. So we really need to focus on that, even though education is not a primary responsibility of the county commission. We certainly, and I would agree with all the people who spoke about collaboration and partnerships and coalitions, that's the way to go, and we can help with that. I was involved with the exit program, where they do teach the prisoners job skills and literacy. That's the focus, and I was in there as a volunteer social worker. So I surely know the importance of that, and they know the importance of that, and I think we need to expand it to the females.
Thank you. Go ahead, Doug.
Well, one of the things that come to mind is there's a lot of things going on with the county that have looked at a holistic approach to literacy in the county, meaning working with different organizations, the different school districts. I think one of the things, if some of you recall, there was a local 3 businessmen, and they were very concerned about the literacy in Muskegon. They started a school. When I was on Reese Puffer School Board, as I mentioned, we met with them and we changed some of the curriculum to make sure that our students were getting better reading skills. But I think one of the things I heard was, the MSU extension is also, there's some resources there that we work with, and with working with some of the local organizations, the Department of Health and Human Services, that I sit on that committee, and they're doing some things to work with the parents of foster and adoption children to get more literacy and help them with some of their skills. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Michelle.
Well, I agree with the collaboration with the county. But one thing as a business owner that I do know is making your employees happy is #1 priority. When you have adults, especially who are illiterate and who cannot help their children to read, being employed, if we can partner with businesses to incorporate a literacy program where business owners can come in and, find out how if their employees are having problems, are illiterate or not, and help them out. It benefits both the employer and the employee, because you're going to get, once an employee knows that you care about them, you're going to get more production out of them. You're going to get more efficient work, and it's going to build a relationship. You're going to be able to retain your employee for longer periods of time.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Michelle. All right, I think we're ready for our next second community question. And we have a learner-tutor pair from Reed Muskegon. So go ahead.
Hi. Hey. Hi, my name is Emba, and I'm here. I have question for language access plan. I am from West Africa, from country called Mali. I was 16 when I came to the United States. I could say hello, how are you? I came to Reed Muskegon to learn English. I had to work. I had to study hard to get my driver's license.
And Emba's question is about language access. When we talk about language access, we are referring to providing limited English proficient individuals access to the same county services provided to English speakers in their languages. Language access improves service, it lowers service costs for everybody. And my question for you is, does Muskegon County have a countywide language plan? Would you support such a plan? Do you? And please explain your position. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're actually going to start with Marcia, and then we'll work our way down that way and come back this way.
So, first of all, I was a Peace Corps volunteer in West Africa. I couldn't hear what country you were from, but that's where I taught English as a second language, so I definitely understand the need for that. And I think your question about a countywide language program, no, we don't. And I think that that's something we need to look at, and there's an opportunity for collaboration and coalition building to look at a countywide plan. Thank you.
Dan?
Well, that helped me a little bit because I really wasn't sure whether or not we had a countywide program for that. So being relatively new to some of this, I think it's a great and valid question. As we move forward and as we have some of these challenges, like with the language barriers and those learning, I think it does make sense to literally piggyback onto that type of idea so that there is a place for people who are struggling to learn the language to have an outlet or a place where they can learn. So it's definitely something that I think would be worth considering.
Thank you. Darrell?
Okay. New candidate, I did not know as well, so thank you, Marcia. But I also think that it would be beneficial to have that type of program in Muskegon County, so an individual could actually pick up on their second language and communicate and learn, whether it be in the community, in the workforce, or in school.
Thank you. Bruce?
I think we have to be, number one, name it for what it is. There is actually a profession known as English as a second language. Certain teachers are certified to teach English as a second language. We need to seek out those specialists, but we also have to be realistic about the limits of public dollars, and not all language groups are going to be able to have the service. Public dollars have limits, and we'll have to group our ESL pupils by the frequency of their language in our population. And there will be inevitably some rare languages that will have to be skipped over in favor of other languages that occur more frequently. That's just one of the realities of public budgets.
Thank you. Ashley?
While we may not have a plan that specifically addresses language in general, there are likely plans elsewhere, and those should kind of be the frameworks that we're looking at. There's no sense in reinventing the wheel. And so I think doing research and being diligent with our resources as well. I do also feel that maybe we need to start asking the question of, do we have interpreters available? And if they're not available, why? And what can we do to make that service more readily available?
Jessica?
All right. I did a little bit of research before I came about what a language access plan is, and it really is just giving county employees, like the ones that I mentioned in my answer before, the ones who are interacting with the public on a daily basis, giving them a tool for how do I respond if I am approached or or if services are requested of me, and the person requesting the services doesn't speak English well enough to be able to receive them or access them equitably. And I think that equity we can address equity at multiple levels of county services that impact literacy, but just giving people who are in a customer service or in a public-facing role the tools for how to respond. And what do I do? How do I call an interpreter? What computer program is available? Give them the tools so that they don't say, I don't know, or I can't help you, because that's unacceptable in a community-facing role. So yes, absolutely on board with the language access plan.
Thank you, Charles, and then we'll go down here to Michelle and Doug.
Excuse me, when it comes to a county literacy plan, we do not have one specifically. But we do have, again, a lot of collaborations with different entities that are involved with literacy programs throughout Muskegon County. To develop a countywide literacy plan, you definitely need a collaboration of partnerships to come together to do a full assessment and evaluation of the things that we do have and the things that we need to put together. And then we have to assess that to see, how do we fund this? Because the county's mandated to do certain things. We're not mandated to do all those different things. And part of this is a backlash, too, of the school system. But as you know, with the school systems now, there are some different English as a second language programs, but we have to assess those also to see which ones work, which ones are best, which ones are more important, and how those things work together. So there is a need in Muskegon County because of the statistics, but we have to get together and we have to bring all the stakeholders to the table so that we can assess all this and then develop a plan and figure out how we're going to pay for it.
Thank you very much. Michelle?
Well, I agree with everything that everybody else has said. We do need a language access plan. We have many immigrants coming into this country who cannot speak English and that need to. Our road signs are in English. When you're filling out, like he said, trying to get a driver's license, you need to be able to read and write English. Medical forms, everything, you need to be able to speak and read English. So it is very, very important, and I do support it.
Okay. Thank you. As Charles and Marcia had mentioned, the county doesn't have an official language access plan. However, I do know that the county, and did some research also, that they do work in partnership with the MSU Extension and also Public Health Department to make sure that there's accessibility and there's someone to interpret. And if they don't have the information there currently, that they're able to find where that resources can come from. So there are a couple things that in that direction. I think it's a plan maybe to take a look at, and what that entails at this point, we'll have to develop it as it goes. So thank you.
All right, I believe we have one more community question if they want to come up and ask that question. And while we're doing that, I'm going to ask of our candidates if you agree on the spot. We're going to modify just slightly. We're a little bit behind now. We're going to have you respond to this question and then maybe limit your closing remarks to about 30 to 45 seconds. Does that seem reasonable to everyone? I want you to have time to interact with your constituents here. So great. Go ahead, please.
Hi, my name is Tim Hamlin. I was a social worker for the state of Michigan for 30-plus years, and I'm now retired, and I'm a volunteer for tutor for Muskegon Reads. Not everyone is aware that the hardships that so many people have. I grew up pretty sheltered, and when I did social work, that's when I learned, holy cow, what's it like for somebody that's has hearing impairment, is deaf or blind or mobility impairments. Nobody knows that, or I shouldn't say nobody, but a lot of people do not know that automatically. So one of my questions was, how do you make yourself aware of all the myriad needs out there? How do, just in general? But also, there's a question about the remaining ARPA, American Rescue Plan funds. Apparently there is still money there that has not been spent and is available. So what, how would you recommend that those funds be used here in Muskegon County for literacy?
Great. So we're going to start with Darrell, and we'll work our way this way, and then we'll work our way back. So we'll start down here with Darrell in the middle, and then we'll go to Dan, Marcia, down this way, and then we'll start down with Charles. So go ahead, Darrell.
Okay, first of all, let's not forget about our ISDs as well, because they connect and serve several school districts in the county, and that's another connective and another collaborative that we can use. So your ISDs, but in terms of how do we, I think, make yourself aware of what's available out there, I think was part of that question. DHS also is a link to that and stuff. They have a unique, the acronym I think for it is FIS, and it's the Family Independent Specialist, and they work in and out of the schools, which gives parents and students the opportunity to network with them to find out about certain things, whether it be where the adult education is, alternative education is, or transportation is for that particular district.
Great, Dan.
So your last question had to do with the ARP funding. So I'm not sure what the amount is left. Maybe these guys will know. But it seems to me if there was money that would be useful for literacy, it would probably be to spend it, a little bit of that investigating plans and seeing how you can utilize a consulting firm or because you can't always be experts about everything. And that was one of the points that you made. You just can't know it all. So sometimes it does make very good sense to hire a consulting firm to kind of see where you're at. That's about all I have to say about it, but I'm a big believer in that.
Before we go to Marcia, I want to add a little context in that when we're talking about the American Rescue Plan Act investments, we have seen that many of those dollars statewide have gone to investments in K-12 public education as well as post-secondary. Adult education sits in a unique position where it sits between the workforce development and the adult education system. And so those funding opportunities have not yet met programs like Reed Muskegon and others in West Michigan that are providing these services. So that's part of the reason why that question has come up this evening. So, Marcia.
Initially, you asked about how people become aware of services. There's an easy way, call 211. And you tell them what you need, and they tell you what the services are. And they are kept up on that, the services, so that's the first place to go there. As far as the ARP money, we have already spent just under 10 million, I believe, on Baker College, buying Baker College. And as it turns out, most of our county facilities need some investment. The jail needs a fence. The IT department needs new equipment. And so we're right in the middle of deciding that. We've identified our 3 top priorities, and then the others, there's really, in fact, one of the commissioners said, we won't take any other requests. So we're kind of limited there because of that.
Thank you, Marcia. Doug?
Okay. As Marcia mentioned, the Baker College was a great investment, saving the county to redo and upgrade the current Hall of Justice would have cost $20 million versus at Baker at 10. There are some things that we have done in the community with matching funds for buses to have more, some matching dollars there. Some monies have gone to the mental health department and basically some long-term plans. And getting back to Baker for 1 second, we needed to take care of some of the things that haven't been done for over 20 years. That's going to be a better environment, not only for the workers that we currently have, but also for the community to get services done. So I think that was the other main goal that the commissioners had at that point.
Thank you. Michelle, and then Charles, be ready.
Okay, well, like they said, most of the funds have already been spent. My opinion is, yeah, if there were funds left, yeah, you can invest in some of these programs. However, I would be looking at more long-term investments with this money where we can take the revenue, a constant supply, continuous supply of revenue to go back into these programs and to look at other things to be more beneficial.
Thank you. Pass that back down. We'll go to Charles and then work our way back down this way. Bipartisanship, sharing the microphone. Don't you love it? Go ahead, Charles.
As far as the ARPA funds go, we received about $33 million a little over a year and a half ago. At the time, the commissioners had agreed, because of the needs of the county, that we would use those funds for the county needs. The issue was, too, we had hundreds of agencies that were sending in for this money, but the county had so many needs we've been passing up for years and decades that we needed to take care of. So now out of that 33 million, the Baker or everything else that we're designated that money for, there's about 5 million left, and we still have about, I think it's about $7 million worth of costs that we still have to cover with trying to tear down a new jail. They're working in dilapidated conditions, and there's also another project that we're working on. But anyway, so we have to spend another 2 million more than what we have in the 33. So that's kind of how that thing went. So those monies are really pretty much designated. That's why I say we have to come together and collaborate.
Thank you,
Darrell
Charles.
mentioned MASD. That's a great partner.
Yep.
They have funds too.
Thank you so much. Jessica?
All right. I think our current commissioners did a good job of answering the American Rescue Plan Act fund question. So I'll just respond to the first part of Tim's question, which is how do you make yourself aware of the needs of the community? And I think especially Tim was referring to people who are traditionally underserved, under-resourced. And as a county commissioner, our job is to represent the needs of our community. So the only way that we can make ourselves aware is to talk to the people who live and work in our community, show up at community events, be on serve community organizations by being on their boards and volunteering, talk to neighborhood associations, and just continue to be involved and keep our ears open. That's literally 100% of our job. So listen, communicate, and do our best to represent those needs.
Thank you, Ashley.
I think I also will focus on the first part of Tim's question of how do we make ourselves aware. You have to immerse yourselves in those communities. They exist in our county, and we need to find them. And we need to make sure that whatever needs are not being met, we are working to find a way to address. Whether that's on a personal level or that extends onto the county commission, it is something that absolutely we need to be a part of. That said, prior to the ARPA comments from the current county commissioners, pending a county or a community assessment, I think we're hearing today what our most worthwhile investments would be. I mean, those are the questions that were being asked. So that being something to consider in the future.
Thank you. Bruce?
We don't always have to reinvent the wheel. There is the Michigan Association of Counties, there's the Michigan Township Association, there's the Michigan Municipal League, there's Patrick's organization of other adult community education. People have had specific experiences with certain programming ideas. We can learn from any and all of those, what has worked elsewhere and what might work for us, given our particular mix of demographics and financing that face us here in our county. So I think we need to open our eyes and minds and our hearts to some degree to understand what's been done before and what has succeeded elsewhere.
Thank you all for responding to that question. So we're going to move into our closing statements. Our time is fleeting away from us. This has been a great conversation. So in the closing statements, we'll have 30 seconds to kind of recap. If you wouldn't mind restating your name and the county commission seat that you're running for, and really try to respond to the question of what will you do if elected to continue to promote within Muskegon County adult literacy and the importance of that programming. And we're going to start down on this end of the table with Michelle.
Again, I'm Michelle Hazekamp. I'm running for County Commissioner, District 3, Fruitport, Sullivan Township, and a portion of Norton Shores. What I will do to help ensure that these programs continue is I will definitely support them, help look into grants, and whatever I can do, because I know how important literacy is. If you're not literate, you're not successful. And this does affect our community. It is very important. Thank you.
Thank you. Doug Brown, and running for County Commissioner for District 6, which I'd go through my 30 seconds if I had to explain where that is now. I guess, my background being a local business guy and working in business, I understand the importance of literacy. I think my record shows that working with Department of Health and Human Services on that committee and being on a school board for 22 years, one of the things I always, just a big advocate of that. I've also been remiss to say that I've been a Rotarian, been a Northside Lions, so I've also been involved in a lot of activities and working with the community to help.
Marcia Hovey, Wright, District 4, Western Norton Shores, Western Muskegon, and all of Roosevelt Park. So the biggest, the best advantage I have is 10 years experience in government. I was 6 years as a state representative, 4 years as a county commissioner. I have a reputation for being responsible, prepared, ethical, and I will continue, of course, to do that. Whoa.
Dan Potts, District 4. I'm running for County Commissioner. I feel like my experience, I did graduate from Michigan State. I spent 5 years on the Mona Shores School Board. I understand local board work very well. In response to what are we going to do or what can we do, I can a lot of times use the network of friends and coaches that I have, because one of the big things that you hear about is mentoring and volunteering from high school football teams and volleyball teams and basketball teams, and I think we could probably do a little bit more of that in the future to really help address that.
Darrell, Paige, running for County Commissioner, District 7. One thing I didn't mention at first is that I have 28 years experience between Muskegon Heights and Muskegon school systems, and I also served Muskegon Heights, the city of Muskegon Heights, 16 years as commissioner and 8 years as the mayor. And I look forward to your support. Thank you.
Let's see, yeah, this one is still on, okay. I've been 10 years serving on 4 different public boards. You can look them up. Montague Fire, the ambulance board where I still am, the city council in Montague, and the countywide library board. So I've served at different local levels, and all of those would benefit from some focus on literacy and raising the living standard and the quality of life of our citizens. I have a track record of working with staff to solve problems at those levels. I invite you to look at my record.
Thank you.
Again, I'm Ashley Podein, and I am District 3, Fruitport, Sullivan, and Norton Shores. And as someone with a background in social work, I understand the value of people-driven policy. Although my background is not in education, my career is, however, guided by the abilities that literacy provides and the barriers illiteracy creates. So what can we do? In my opinion, start questions at the ground level and continue preparing for the very much needed multifaceted approach.
Thank you.
I'm Jessica Cook, County Commission candidate for District 6, which is North Muskegon, Laketon Township, Fruitland Township, and downtown Muskegon and Jackson Hill. As I've been saying throughout the forum tonight, my focus is going to continue to be on collaboration and convening. 23,000 functionally illiterate in Muskegon County, we can't solve that. No one organization can solve that on our own, and we are very particularly seated to help solve problems by cooperating. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Charles.
Again, I'm Charles Nash. I'm running for District 5. And to answer your question, until we have a complete assessment and develop some type of literacy consortium throughout Muskegon County, I think there's 2 things we need to focus on. Number 1 is working with our state legislature and representatives to hold our education department accountable so that we can get education ramped up better in the schools so that they're not coming out without literacy. And 2, focusing on doing a better job of marketing the services that we have in this county. We have a ton of services, but we don't market them well. So there's a lot of people that don't know about what we have.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all of you for taking time this evening to respond to this community forum questions. I'd like to also thank those community members that were brave enough to ask those questions, so thank you so much for that. And I believe you have some guidance for us? And now we're moving into our state and House Senate candidates as they come up to our panel. I am going to allow the candidates in their opening statements to introduce themselves and the specific race or district that they're running for. But I'd like at this point to introduce Matt Gillard, the President and CEO of Michigan's Children, who will be sharing a little bit more information as well as reviewing the format for tonight's forum. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Patrick, and thank you all again, and thank you to the candidates for being here today. I'm Matt Gillard, the President and CEO of Michigan's Children. We partner with local groups throughout the state to help host and organize these candidate forums. Just real quickly, we did just conclude the county commission portion of this. Now we have our state house and state senate candidates, and then we'll after this, we'll take a short break and we'll have some congressional candidates here as well. Real quick for you folks up here, the rules are like you typically see at any candidate forum. We'll give each of you a 1-minute opening statement, then we'll have some questions from the community. Each candidate will get an opportunity to respond for 1 minute to those questions as well, and then at the end, we'll do a 1-minute closing statement. Collie Montgomery from our team is right here in the front. She'll hold up that yellow folder when you got 15 seconds left. She'll hold up the red folder when your minute's done, and Patrick will cut you off abruptly, I'm sure. But so please, we have a lot of candidates here, obviously a lot to the folks that want to hear from all of you, so please try to keep your responses as brief as you can. We do have candidates from 4 different state house districts as well as 1 state senate district here today. The maps are new this year. We had a new independent citizen redistricting commission based on our last census, drew new maps. We do have large blown up versions of the maps in the back of the room for all of the audience members. So if you hadn't had a chance yet to look at where you may live now in which house district, those maps are up in the back of the room. So please take a look at that and you'll know which candidates to pay the most attention to here today. I think that's all I have for us right now. I'll turn it back over to Patrick and we'll get started.
And thank you again, candidates, for being here. I'm Patrick Brown. I'm the Executive Director of Michigan Adult Community and Alternative Education Association, MACAE. And I want to share just with you some quick, fast facts about adult education in Michigan that you may or may not know about. We serve as a system throughout the entire state, about 25,000 students every year within adult education. Many of those providers are located in West Michigan. There's nearly 20, and one of those is obviously Reed Muskegon right here in Muskegon. Within the greater West Michigan area, we're talking about 13 counties, there is an immense need for these types of services, and throughout the state, there's nearly 500 learners who are eligible for those services. So that's kind of the context for tonight and the need and the importance of having this community conversation. So I would invite you, I think Matt has taken my papers once again this evening. It is okay. I'm going to invite each candidate to have a 1-minute opening remarks or statement. Again, we just reviewed the rules, and we'll start down here with this end, and you go right ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. We'll pass the microphone. Sharing is caring.
Look at that bipartisanship.
It is wonderful.
My name is Will Snyder, candidate for state representative in the new 87th House District here in Muskegon, which includes the cities of Muskegon, Muskegon Heights, North Muskegon, Roosevelt Park, 1 precinct of Norton Shores, and the townships of Muskegon, Laketon, and Dalton. I've spent the last 6 years working for the current state representative from the 92nd House District for the area in a district that is very similar to that in Terry Sabo. I also serve on the board of Reed Muskegon. I was not given any of the questions that are going to be answered or asked here tonight, but I'm also a proud board member of Reed Muskegon. So thank you for having me, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Great. Terry.
Thank you. My name is Terry Sabo, and I am the current state representative for the 92nd District, which is essentially the greater Muskegon area. But I'm running for the 32nd State Senate District, which is most of Muskegon County, minus Ravenna, Moreland, Casnovia townships, all of Oceana County, all of Mason County, the western half of Manistee County, which includes the city of Manistee, as well as all of Benzie County. So it's about 2.5 hours from end to end. And I'm in my third term now as a state representative. I've previously served as a Muskegon County Commissioner with one of those terms, 2 terms, and then one with being the chair of the county board. And then previous to that, I was a Muskegon County Road Commissioner for a short time period. I am from Muskegon County. I've been a resident here my entire life, and including my time in the military. And I worked for over 25 years for the city of Muskegon Heights between the police and fire department, as well as a couple other local police departments in conjunction with that. So it is certainly an honor to have the opportunity to represent home, and I look forward to tonight's forum. And thanks again for having us, by the way.
Absolutely. Curt.
Thank you. I want to say thank you for everybody for being here and the interest that you're showing, and for me, the opportunity to be here. My name is Curt Vanderwall. I am a current state senator for the 35th District. I am running for the State House in the 102nd. I'm joined here tonight by my wife, Diane, of 38 years. We have 3 children. I have a daughter-in-law and a son-in-law, and 2 grandchildren that have sparked us back into being young again a little bit. So very interesting. I appreciate my LD Jordan Jortsma for being here tonight. Thank you, Jordan. But we look forward to the opportunity to serve you, to get to know you. Basically, it's the northern part of Muskegon County, part of Oceana, part of Mason County, and basically just about 3 miles north of the city of Manistee. So we look forward to tonight's discussion, letting you get to know me a little bit more. And we look forward to the opportunity of serving you in the 102nd.
Thank you so much. Brian.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Hostika. I'm also running as the Democratic candidate in District 102, which Mr. Vanderwall just described. I'm from Whitehall. I graduated from Whitehall Public Schools. I have 2 kids. They're 19 and 21. They're also graduates of Whitehall. I'm a former small business owner. I used to own and operate Dairy Treat in Whitehall for about 10 years, where we sold dairy products from local dairy farms. I'm currently a public defender here in Muskegon. I'm a former prosecutor also. As a prosecutor, I'm a member of the Fraternal Order of Police, and I'm also the vice president of the White Lake Community Library. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. I'm Christine Baker. I'm running for the Michigan 88th House seat, which comprises much of Ottawa County. Southern border is New Holland. Eastern is 96th. Wilson is the north, and then it grabs Norton Shores. So it's a brand new district, a brand new opportunity for the community. I've worked in education for over 35 years and currently serve on the Grand Haven Area Public School Board. I have for the last 10 years. Much of my career has been focused on literacy. My last 10 years of my career was at the ISD in Ottawa County, and much of that was around early childhood. The interest I have in this topic is vast, and I am looking forward to sharing my views on literacy this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Greg.
Thank you. I'm State Representative Greg Van Workum. I currently represent the 91st District and will be running for the 88th District that was just described. Happy to be here. Have spent a lot of time in education, served on the school board, was president of a school board for 3 terms. When we talk about education, I like to focus on childhood literacy. Education is a very broad topic, and I think there's a lot of improvement we can do, and I've been involved in it for several years. I saw that this is being hosted by Children's Trust. I've also worked with them on childcare stuff and have a passion of trying to improve childcare, which I think ultimately prepares kids as they enter into the school system. So looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you. Luke.
Thank you very much. Yes, my name is Luke Merriman. I currently serve the 88th District, which is different than the 88th District that is now drawn up. And I'm running for the 89th District, which starts in Fruitport and goes over to Kent City, and then includes 7 townships in Ottawa County as well. So Looking forward to this discussion as well. By trade, I'm a dairy farmer. I do have my daughter Samantha here. She's over there on the floor. And it's one of these things that we have to try to get right. Education, continuing education. I went to Career Line Tech Center myself for diesel heavy equipment. And so it's a passion of mine, and I look forward to talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I should note that we did invite all of the major candidates from the 32nd Senate District, as well as the 87th, 88th, 89th, and 102nd House Districts. And again, if you're interested in where these new districts are, you can go out into the hallway there at break and look at the different maps there. So let's dive right in. Thank you so much for those opening questions. I believe we have a community question.
Hello, my name is Tiffany Duggar, and I live in Roosevelt Park. I am a board chair of a local nonprofit support group for mothers, and several of our mothers will express concerns with if their child is developing appropriately. And so there is a program called Early On here that comes and does in-home visits for typically 4-year-olds, and we are wondering if the CDC has stated that 1 in 44 children are diagnosed with autism. And I know someone who did not get diagnosed until later on in life, and it has greatly affected him socially with life skills as well as employment. So my question to you is, will you help support and fund programs like Early On?
We'll start with Luke. You have 1 minute response, and then we'll work our way down this way.
I appreciate Early On, especially for those that really need it. I had a couple of my children received Early On. We did foster care for 8 years, and all those kids qualified. It's an important first start, head start for these young kids.
Yeah, I actually have personal experience with Early On as well. My son has started with a slow speech, so we had workers inside our home helping out. So supportive of the program. You mentioned autism. The state of Michigan has done a lot over the past couple of years, led by Brian Calley. We have some very progressive programs that we've implemented here in the state to help identify that early on, help provide those resources that they need. I think there are some things even into the insurance code to try and help with those students that need that assistance. So I feel as Michigan has done a lot of effort on this issue. We do have, and I think you're going to hear about it as we progress through the evening, but we have set record spending levels at the state to provide those types of resources. So I think that will continue to move on.
Thank you for that question. Yeah, I've worked with Early On for many years at the Ottawa ISD, and it's an important component of early identification. If you can identify delays early enough to mitigate them, it has a huge impact on literacy skills later on. If you have a speech delay, if you have a hearing loss, if there's a vision issue, all of that impacts whether or not you can read later on in life. And Early On, I believe there was an expansion of that in the current budget, but I don't think it is universally funded. All of early education needs to be funded at a much higher level because prevention is much more impactful than trying to undo literacy issues later in life.
I absolutely support Early On as well as any other early childhood education programs. That's where we get the biggest bang for our buck. So not only would I support it, I would try to increase the funding and the reach for these types of programs, as well as supporting Great Start collaboratives in the community. So local people are involved, and local mothers and fathers are on those boards.
Thank you. I also will say that I look forward to working very hard with Early On. I think it's extremely important. I know that Representative Van Workum and I worked very hard on early childhood development. Feel very strongly that the opportunities that we have when our youth are young to discover their shortfalls or the areas that we can help them advance is extremely important. And I look forward to continuing to work as we have increased funding throughout the entire education program. We know that there are more opportunities for us to look at. We need to continue to really focus with our parents to find out where our shortcomings are and address those with a true work plan to help our students succeed and make sure that they are better equipped as they enter the K through 12 system.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm also in support of early on, of course, and in all the other early childhood programs. The only the one thing I can say is, we need to support those programs because that's the best time to really start addressing it where the young people is, the earlier the better. The earlier we can find out that we have some issues that need to be addressed, the better everybody's going to be, including that child themselves. So yes, also, that's why I attend the Great Start Collaborative. I always say Great Lakes. Great Start Collaborative. It's important for me because, it's something that I have not been exposed to, not only professionally, but personally. So I like to go and attend those just so I can sit in the back of the room and hear what's going on, hear what's being discussed, so that I can get a better feel and put my finger on the pulse of what that program is all about and what's needed in the community from those that know what they're talking about. So again, I definitely support early on and all the early childhood education programs.
I too support, investment in early on, because investment in early on is how we provide the highest rates of investment at, in these young young kids is how we can get them when they're young, and we can make sure that we have a difference and make sure that we are impacting their educational career right out of the bat. And this is part of your educational career when you are at that point in your life. So, yes.
Thank you all so much. I believe we're ready for our next community question from Tom Moore.
Hi, my name is Tom Moore, and I'm privileged to serve as the Director of White Lake Area Community Education, one of 3 adult education providers in Muskegon County. We serve students in the northern part of Muskegon County. Over half of all adults in the United States read below a 6th grade level. Many of these adults need intensive, individualized instruction to build literacy skills to the level needed to participate in jobs, trainings, programs, and simply to be able to function fully in society. The costs involved in providing quality education to these adults include paying a living wage to qualified teachers and instructors, providing transportation, and offering childcare. Programs that provide adult basic education instruction are a critical part of the solution to filling employers' needs for skilled workers, and yet funding for ABE programs in Michigan is tiny compared to PK-12 funding. As you all know, Michigan's PK-12 budget is now close to $20 billion a year, 20 with a B. And that's roughly about $10,000 per student. Yet state funding for adult education programs in the state of Michigan remains at $30 million with an M, or approximately $1,000 per student. So my question is, would you support increasing state funding for adult education providers to help prepare adults for jobs training programs and high school completion or GED programs?
Thank you, Tom. We're going to actually start with Brian, and we'll go Christine down that way, and then Curt and down this way. So Brian first.
Well, my experience with adult education is mostly through the criminal justice system. I can't tell you how many times I've had to read advice of rights or even police reports for clients who can't. And when someone who can't read them, when someone hasn't graduated from high school, I try to always point that out to the judge, because chances are the judge will make that getting a GED part of their probationary period or incarceration also. So I do support expanding adult education in Michigan. I think it's very important, and I've seen it all throughout my adult professional career.
Thank you. Christine?
Certainly I do. I worked, early on in my career, I worked in adult education. In fact, a program that is near and dear to my heart. I don't think it's funded federally any longer. It's called the Even Start program, where breaking the intergenerational poverty and illiteracy was the goal of that program. We ran early childhood programs. Adults, the parents went to high school. They had parenting classes. And I think that all of that is so inextricably linked to improving literacy rates that we involve adults in their own education so they can be their child's first best teacher. As a school board member, I've been talking a lot about how we talk about K-12 all the time, and we really need to expand that to pre-K, early college. So I think the funding system needs to be revamped to include a broader funding stream for adults down to early childhood.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom, for the question. I happen to chair the Appropriations Committee that deals with workforce training programs, and some of that kind of touches base into adult education. Jobs for Michigan Graduates, we have some other programs that are set aside to make sure that those that are trying to get to that next level or get that first job have those skill sets. So I appreciate kind of the focus on adult ed here and specifically that program, but there are also various programs throughout the state that is trying to solve this issue, and I understand the forum we're in here, but there are those other programs that, whether you're going through the community college, whether you're going through your employer, whether it's Reed Muskegon. I've heard some fantastic testimonials when I've gone to your fundraisers of those in the criminal justice system interacting with their students. So I get the question and kind of comparing it to pre-K, but there are various other programs that I have been very supportive and have led the way on.
I'll have to admit, it is one thing I need to get more information on, and I'd like to connect with you later on specifically how that works with you. So often, these things start at a very young age, and the things that these young people are up against, and even adults are up against, are sometimes things that we might not even comprehend. The things they have to deal with back home, the things they just struggle with is not something some would comprehend. And so for us to understand what's holding them back from the beginning, I think it's tremendously important. I'm sure you could help me understand that better, and I'm here to learn, so thank you.
Thank you. Curt?
Thank you. You know, it's a very interesting subject when we talk about adult education. I have been very fortunate to be very involved in Ludington and gone to the graduations and been able to see exactly the pride of those folks that have struggled in their life and they graduate, and to really watch them go through their graduation and to see what we're seeing. We know that we've shortchanged them a bunch, actually. We've put so much pressure on our K through 12 system that sometimes we neglect the ones that need the most help. And it really comes down to a point where we got to look at our early childhood development, we got to look at our K through 12, and we got to look at our adult education opportunities and also our opportunities in the prison to make sure that all are incorporated in and they're all within that budget that we're trying to put forth. But it starts really grassroots with folks in this room learning a little bit more and us giving the opportunity to go back and restructure some of that. So I look forward to working with you on these issues.
You know, I think it's, I think the number, I don't want to say I think, I know the numbers go up for those people that cannot read, and they end up getting involved in the criminal justice system, unfortunately on the bad side. And so that's why it's so important to make sure that people have these opportunities, and we're spending the appropriate money on adult education, amongst other programs, to make sure that people can read and they can navigate in today's world in literacy and all the different areas of literacy. Because if we don't pay for it at the beginning, we're going to pay for it later on down the road. That's why, you know, I really value the adult education system, not only for what they're doing, but also for the students, because most of them aren't there because they have to be there. They're there because they want to be there. They want to learn how to read, and they want to learn how to have those job skills that they're going to need going forward. So that's why I've attended those adult education graduations, because it's a big, big deal for those people, as well as people that are incarcerated in our exit program that we have here in Muskegon to help with those young people there as well, and navigating the system to become more literate in their world.
Thank you.
I have a really close family friends who had a son who had kind of fallen on some bad times, and he had, you know, things were not looking so hot, but he got enrolled in Orchard View Adult Education, was able to get his GED, and 2 months later, he was accepted into an apprenticeship program with the laborers on the other side of the state. Now he's living in Saginaw and doing terrific, and that wasn't an opportunity that was going to be made available to him without, you know, adult education in our here in Muskegon. So as we're funding our, you know, per pupil funding's for K-12's at a record high of like $9,100 a student, I think. And that's great, but when we're only spending $600 a student at the adult ed level, I think that's something we need to revisit. And it's a big change. A small investment can make a big change in the lives of a lot of people. So,
thank you all. I think we have another community question as they're preparing. I just wanted to make a note that historically, West Michigan, in particular Muskegon County, is recognized from my landscape as the State Association Director as being the place and the home of community building and education that spans generations. So it's very important that you all are thinking about that this evening, because Muskegon County in particular, it has that history of providing programs that touch early childhood all the way through adult skill building. So thank you for that. Go ahead, Shauna.
Hello, my name is Shauna Hunter. I live and work in Muskegon County. I'm currently the Executive Director of Pathfinders of Muskegon, which is a youth organization that provides after-school and summer programming, respite, community events, and services related to social-emotional learning, access to mental health services, and healthy expression. This past summer, we served 78 youth, and 19 of those youth asked to be referred to mental health services. There is a great need for our out-of-school programs that address social and emotional wellness to promote healthy youth to excel academically. In Muskegon County, people who have 6 or more ACEs are at 15% versus the national rate of less than 1%. There is a great need for diverse wraparound services in Muskegon. Do you support using state funding for after-school youth programs whose main focus is total wellness and social-emotional learning? And in addition to that, to traditionally after-school programs, do you ensure that there is equity in the distribution of those funds, and how do you ensure that?
Thank you, Shauna. We'll start with Curt, a 1-minute response from each candidate, and we'll move to Terry this way, and then we'll go back to Brian and work our way down that way.
Well, Shauna, there was a lot in that question right there, so I'm gonna touch on a few of the areas there. The after-school programs, we've got them throughout a lot of our districts that we serve. I've worked very closely with one out of Cadillac in what we've seen with the 38 youth that attend that and what we've been able to provide. I think inside the school system, we just passed Senate Bill 1012 that I sponsored. The governor signed it into law, which is going to bring more mental health counselors in through our K through 12, which would help address some of these situations that you brought up. But I agree 100%. If we don't address some of these, if these kids don't have the after school, they lose some of the opportunity to get more education, more opportunities to learn, and they go home into a situation that in not all cases is the best place for them to be. They fail to get their homework done. A lot of them don't get fed. And so we really need to look at what we can do statewide to make sure that this program continues, it gets properly funded, and the results are monitored so that we can get better and better all the time. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. We're going to Terry next.
Yeah, I'm a very big supporter of the out of school time programs. You know, I'm very familiar with Pathfinders. You know, I'm a member of the Muskegon Heights Optimist Club, whose motto is, our motto is Friend of Youth. Our international motto is Friend of Youth. And my wife is a member of the Greater Muskegon Optimist Club. And so we've definitely had some opportunities to work with Pathfinders in the various different ways. But you know, one of the things that I've seen from experience, and my experience, I'm referring right here to Muskegon Heights where we're at, a lot of these kids, the only time they get to be a kid is when they're at school. Because as soon as they leave school, it's a totally different program, and we don't know what they're going home to. A lot of them have siblings that they're responsible for. There are so many other factors that play into this, and it's unfortunate. And I think sometimes kids lose their way, so the more time that we can spend with them in that school setting, the more time the better, because they need to have that type of exposure, that type of time, and that's why I support it. It's such an important part of our program, not necessarily in all communities, but specifically in communities that have low or you know, these types of areas of low income or very high low income areas.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you.
I too, 100% in support of, you know, out of school programs. I've been to Pathfinders many times, toured the building. It's a terrific service, but I think two other services in Muskegon County that we're very fortunate to have is our expanding Boys and Girls Club and our expanding Kids Food Basket, which we might not sometimes think that that's an after-school program, but you know, not only access to education, but access to a quality meal is a huge deal. And sometimes when these kids go home, that's not a given that they're going to have that meal for the evening, and that's why Kids Food Basket is, you know, they send home sack suppers to students in Muskegon, and I'm a huge supporter of that, and continued funding of these programs is essential.
Thank you. We're going to go down to Brian.
I keep waiting for someone to say, no, I oppose that program. I don't think that's going to happen. I, too,
You would be surprised. You would be surprised, Brian.
Well, I support it.
Yes.
It's just one piece of the big education picture, right? There's early childhood education, there's adult education, and there's after-school programs which have to be supported because working people need it. The kids get out of school before mom or dad is home from work, and there needs to be a safe place with a, like Will said, a good meal for them to go to. So absolutely, I support that.
Yes, my short answer is yes, of course. And I think that what it can offer is not only a safe place, but it can give kids opportunities to experience learning that they may not otherwise get. You can really enrich a child's existence with chess club, with any number of opportunities that they may not have. And it isn't a mental health program per se, but it helps with building relationships. It gives them something to aspire to, and an avocation outside of school can help with learning loss too. So there are a whole host of benefits to expanding the school day, and I think that should be an option. And you asked a little bit about equity. I really think that we need to continue to look. I know that in this current budget, there's a lot more opportunity for weighted funding for communities that are disproportionately impacted by declining enrollment, but I think that that should be in place for after-school programs as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the work that you do. As Curt said, you put a lot into that question, and a lot of that has been touch base when you become the 7th person down the line here. But I've been a supporter of Kids Food Basket, supporter of Boys and Girls Club, supporter of Lights On After School when I was a board member at United Way of the Lake Shore. I think that's a critical part, is for the students that need it, of having that opportunity. We're talking a little bit about kind of some of the disparities between districts. Here in Muskegon, yeah, we see it. You can see it differently in each school district, but overall we see it. When you start comparing to other school districts, whether they need that same resource is a question. But I've always thought things like the Boys and Girls Club was a critical piece that Muskegon was missing and have been a supporter for many years. I'd love to talk a little bit more about the child mental health. That's something, again, that I've worked extensively on in trying to get social workers, and it's a little difficult to get psychiatrists into the schools, but hopefully we get a question about that as my time has run out to talk about that a little bit further.
Thank you. I'll start by saying I'd love to hear your ideas about how to make sure the money gets where it's needed most. So if we can start there. Second, Terry Sabo and I served on the school safety task force together over this last year, and that was in response to what happened in Oxford. And you know, that kind of stuff just tears your guts out. And there's 4 Democrats and 4 Republicans, and I think we got a long ways. I think we did a lot of great work, and we introduced some bills, and we've got some money in the budget. But at the end of the day, the escalating problem with school mental health is tremendous. And I would hope that we could say, you know, we're fighting the end of it, we've got a plan, we're going to get on the top of this and turn it the other direction. I don't know that's the case, but I know that we have a lot more work to do, and we can't give up, and we got to keep working. So thank you for your work too.
Thank you all for responding to that question. You know, this just reminds me that this is such an important topic as we think about the talent shortage that our state and our country really is facing, and that this is a population to tap into when we think about those wraparound supports that we're trying to provide to get people back to work and find those employments, but also building a responsible citizenry and building communities that we can be proud of, and that we have collaboration and communication happening in positive ways in those communities. So this is all adds to part of that. So we're coming now to our closing statements. Each candidate will have a minute, and what I'd like you to do is to reaffirm who you are in the district or race that you're running for, and if you can respond to how, if elected or if continue to be elected, that you will continue to support many of the topics that we've been talking about this evening. Let's start with you, Luke.
Well, again, I appreciate the time and your attention. I've got a lot more to learn. I'm looking forward to learning more. I'm frankly excited to have part of the Muskegon area in the district that I'm running for. The last district was only in Ottawa County. So I think there's more perspective that can be brought to me from Muskegon, and I'm looking forward to that. As I said, I think childhood mental health has been a focus of mine and will continue to be a focus of mine for hopefully years to come. And it's just not something that we can say, here's it's fixed. And so to whatever extent you can engage with me and talk with me about how you think it needs to happen, I have a listening ear and I would love to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Luke. We'll go to Greg.
Thank you for putting this together. Again, I'm State Representative Greg Van Workum. I'm serving in my 2nd term, running for my 3rd term. Would love to talk more about this subject. It's something that I have a passion for. As I said earlier, education is a big, broad topic, and I've tried to focus on that child literacy part, as well as that child care part, as well as that mental health part. Those are kind of my 3 areas, though. So I think we mesh pretty well on here. We may have different approaches to it. My approach is having a loving, caring adult in a child's life. How do you make that happen? My approach on literacy, I've seen some great programs. I've seen Hope Network that does a program and have toured them when they're having small groups with kids, and they can see where that progress occurs. So we need to be thinking about those, of how we get that in the classroom, how we get a concentration, how we get a focus on those elements, and then I think we can finally start moving some needles on stuff. So appreciate the topic and appreciate the support. Thank you.
Thank you. Christine.
Thank you again, Christine Baker, running for the Michigan 88th House seat. And I feel like I'm uniquely suited to be an advocate for all education, but particularly literacy. I spent a lot of my career in that realm, and I think that there's been a lot of best practice identified over the course of my career. What I think we haven't yet been able to do with that knowledge is uniformly and equitably distribute that across all districts and all systems. So I think if I were elected, that would be one of the things I would want to work on, is try to disseminate best practices and make sure that literacy is impacted by uniform application of those best practices across the board.
Thank you so much. Brian.
Thank you, Brian Hostika, Democratic candidate, State House District 102. One of the main focuses of my campaign has been, and always will be, to defend public schools. Public schools are being relentlessly demonized, and it's getting worse. The playbook is tell parents and tell citizens that your kindergartners are being sexualized by their teachers, or that eighth graders are being taught to hate themselves because of slavery, or that critical race theory is being taught at public schools. These are lies. And it's done to undermine public confidence in public schools so they can, it's a money grab. So they can get so certain folks can get their hands on taxpayer public school money and funnel it into for-profit private enterprises. I am 100% committed to fighting that narrative because democracy begins with public schools. It's where we ensure that we have an educated and informed electorate, which is crucial for democracy to succeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Curt.
Curt Vanderwall, again running for the 102nd current state senator of the 35th. My wife and I look very much forward to learning more about the northern part of Muskegon County, which will actually incorporate the whole county, because once you have part of it, you really have the entire county. Extremely important. We've been very, very active in early childhood development. If you look through the bills that I've sponsored, the bills that we've gotten passed in the mental health state and what we can do, we've got a lot of work to do. We need to concentrate on what we can do to best suit our children, give them the best opportunity to succeed, so that when they graduate, they can go on, if they choose, into a career trade or into college. But we know, number one, that if we don't have the right systems from the very beginning, we won't succeed. So we need to make sure that we continue to work with all branches, or all students from the beginning to the ones that didn't make it through high school and are now working in adult ed, to make sure that we get that through, and of course into the criminal system, to make sure that before a person's released, we actually have the opportunity to make sure that they have a degree, a high school degree, so that they can succeed when they get out.
Thank you. Terry.
Thank you. A big part of representing is being a part of community. And it also means showing up. And I can tell you that in my lifetime home here of Muskegon County, I've been showing up. I've been a veteran, a police officer, a firefighter in this community, across Muskegon County, quite frankly. I have a perfect attendance record in Lansing in my 6 years. I've never missed a meeting, never missed a committee meeting. I've belonged to numerous civic organizations here in Muskegon County. It's just that important to me to be a part of community, and I'm here tonight, and I will be here going forward, no matter what. I am the one candidate that you're going to see at the local grocery store. I'll be the one that you see going into a local restaurant. That is who I am because this is home. And I want to thank those that put on this forum tonight, as well as acknowledge those in White Lake that are watching this by live stream. And again, my name is Terry Sabo, and I plan to be your next state senator for the 32nd District.
Thank you. Go ahead, Luke.
Thank
Will,
you.
Sorry, Will.
Thank you once again, Will Snyder, candidate for the 87th House District here in Muskegon. And I so appreciate the collaboration to put this important event on. And as Patrick, as you mentioned, I do think we're a very, very special community here in Muskegon. The collaboration that we show when our nonprofits get together and work hand in hand to affect positive change. And that's something that I'm so proud to be a part of at Reed Muskegon. It's something that I'm so glad that Melissa and Reed Muskegon has the Literacy Collaborative, the Muskegon Literacy Collaborative, which highlights many of these issues. And literacy is so much more than just, the ability of reading and writing. It's the ability to have a good job, to have a quality life, and it's so very, very important to many folks in our community. And I think it's time that we put these issues at the forefront and make sure that working people, that people living in poverty have that voice in Lansing, and that's something that I'm going to be for you. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Will. Thank you to all of our candidates. I'd leave you with this last thought is I'd like you to think about as candidates what it took you to be here today. And what these systems are doing is providing those on-ramps and those supports to give individuals that maybe did not have the support structure that you had through transportation, through affordable childcare, through educational access, to be able to realize their own potential. And so that's really what this point of this forum is, and that's really the heart of what adult education and these after-school programs can do for the community. So thank you all for your dedication to that. We wish you best of luck in the general election. Thank you to our community questions as they were proudly stood up and asked those questions. We are going to take a small pause here, and we will resume at 7 o'clock with our next and third and final installment of tonight's candidate forum. So thank you all again.
Thank you again, Patrick. Once again, I'm Matt Gillard, the president and CEO of Michigan's Children, and we're honored and excited to be able to be a part of this event along with Reed Muskegon and the Michigan Association of Adult, Community, and Alternative Education. You got it. Wow, nailed it. It's like my 20th time saying it. I finally got it. So we work with community organizations from around the state to put forums like this on. We were with a group of candidates from the Detroit area earlier this afternoon. We'll be in Battle Creek on Wednesday, and I think Royal Oak on Thursday, and I'm not even sure where next week yet. But we'll operate these forums just like you would see at a normal, typical candidate forum event. We'll give each candidate an opportunity to give an opening statement. Then there'll be questions from the community, from the audience. Each candidate will have an opportunity to respond to those. We'll give 1-minute answers on the questions. Collie Montgomery from our team right here is in the front. She'll hold up the yellow folder when there's 15 seconds left. Red folder when your time is up. Just to note, so we have candidates from both the 2nd and the 3rd congressional districts here. Ms. Scholten's opponent declined to attend, and Mr. Hilliard's opponent, Congresswoman Molinar, is actually in D.C., I think right now in session with Congress, who was offered to have a surrogate or someone else attend on his behalf, but I don't believe that anybody is here from his campaign at this time. So we'll have these two candidates answering questions from the community, and they'll start with opening statements. We'll go ahead and get started, right, Patrick? Thank you.
Great. So thank you both for being here, and thanks to our audience that's here in person and live streaming. And so you both came in and got to hear a little bit of the last conversation, but wanted to add a little context to you for the reason why we're doing this candidate forum. So this forum in particular is really focused on outcomes for adult skill building and resource and access and opportunities, and what that means about providing adults in the greater Muskegon area, Muskegon County, access to education to complete their high school diploma, their high school equivalency, improve their English language or literacy skills, and all that comes with that. And so we shared a little bit of this information before, but our state currently serves about 25,000 adults every year through our established adult education system. So that we're very proud of that in Michigan. The outcomes for that are fairly high, and in comparison with other states, we do a good job of doing that and the services that we provide. We're fortunate as well in Michigan that we have a majority of our adult education programming that we offer a state-funded match to our federal investments for adult education. And so part of this conversation is to encourage access to those funds and continue to support those, as well as conversation about how we can increase that funding and increase those opportunities so that programs like Read Muskegon, who's a nonprofit, can also be fully funded and have actionable steps to access those funds. So thank you both for being here. So I'm going to invite both of you to, we're actually, since there's two of you, we've got a little more time, and I want to give you a little more of a community dialogue conversation. I'd invite you to have an opening statement and take about 2 minutes. And if you would, just restate your name as well as the district that you're running for, and then tell us a little about your work, and also tell us a little about any prior connections that you've had with adult education or literacy in this space. So Hillary or Jerry, whoever would like to go first. Hillary, maybe?
Great, thanks. Hello, everyone. I'm Hillary Skolton, the Democratic nominee for Michigan's 3rd Congressional District, a newly drawn seat that encompasses Muskegon and goes all the way into Grand Rapids. You know, I'm the daughter of a public school teacher. Education, early education, all the way through adult learning has been always at the forefront of what is one of the most pivotal cornerstones in our society. Seeing my mom's commitment to her students from the earliest ages on through adulthood has left a deep and lasting impression on me about the investments that we need to make in our students, again, from early education into adulthood. I'm also a mom of 2 school-aged kids myself who has seen the detrimental impact that these last 2 years of the pandemic has left on this population. When we're talking about adult education, we need to be critical that our adult learners are going to be faced with incredible challenges. You know, when you think about juniors and seniors in high school and what happened to them in the last 2 years of the pandemic, the learning that didn't happen. You think about individuals now who are in early elementary school learning the foundational building blocks of math, science, reading, who we know some are entire grade levels behind, and what that will mean for how they will continue their education behind. This is what I think about when I think about the critical role that is ahead of me as a future representative for this district. There is no place that I would rather be tonight than answering the questions that are most on parents' minds and on the community's minds about how we're going to meet the needs of this community and continue to grow and create stronger, more prosperous communities for all.
Thank you, Hillary. Jerry.
My name is Jerry Hilliard, and I'm running for CD2 for the U.S. House as a proud Democrat. I grew up in rural Michigan, graduated from Harrison High School, if you know where that is. It's ways from here, but in rural Michigan, so I know what it's like to live in a rural area, and that's what I'm going to be representing. If you're not familiar, the industrial part of Muskegon County was put in the 3rd district, and the rural part of Kent and Muskegon counties were put in the 2nd district. So I know what it's like to grow up in a small town in a rural area and really not have the resources that a lot of people have. So that's why I always wanted to be a teacher. And I have a degree from CMU in education, and I also have a MBA from the University of Michigan Flint. And I also have a 2nd master's degree from Central in Sports Administration. So I'm a hard worker. When I was in sales for many, many years, And everybody in our sales team knew they were going to have to work really hard to beat me in all the contests because I was a hardest worker. And it's been the same thing as I've been running for Congress. This is the third time I've run for Congress, and I'm known for being at all the events and showing up and doing things. Right now, I teach economics and business management at 2 different community colleges, and I have had some experience with adult education. I used to substitute teach, and I found the adult ed students to be in tune to what's going on. Their mind on the business at hand when they're in school, and I was very impressed with the way that adult ed is run in the state of Michigan. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Jerry. We're now going to move into our community questions time. So I believe Chrissy has the first question. Welcome.
Well, thank you. Hi, my name is Chrissy Vines. I'm a mother of a 2-year-old son that has benefited greatly from the Great Start Play and Learn programs. Caden has grown mentally from the Play and Learn programs, from having behavior issues to sharing. He practices self-control, taking turns while at the Play and Learn groups. Caden is more respectful and his vocabulary has grown a lot. Caden,
You're doing wonderfully. Thank you,
Caden has
Chrissy.
learned a lot from his peers and the facilitators at the Play and Learn groups also. Great Start has also helped me with my communication skills with Caden. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. Fun fact for you, 0 to 3-year-olds is when our children's brains grow the most rapidly. How would you, at a federal level, support the early child development programs?
We'll start with Jerry. Oh, Hillary looks like she's ready, so go ahead, Hillary. Oh, okay. You both were so excited. Thank you so much. Go ahead, Jerry.
Okay, so one of the biggest problems with funding state programs like adult ed is the reliance that we have in most states in the United States on property taxes. And property taxes are inherently an equal way to fund education because in rich areas, people who are already rich or can pay more taxes and do all the extras for the school that are needed, but in lower middle class or middle class areas, it's a different ballgame. You know, they don't have the high property values that produce all of the money. So, you know, a lot of education is at the state level. They have a lot of control over education. So I think the biggest job for federal government is to try and get the sources of the money, the funding, to the schools that they need. And I would definitely be behind increasing the amount of money that we spend on education, because there's a direct correlation between the amount of money in its district and outcomes.
Thank you. Hillary.
Thank you so much. It's a great opportunity to respond to something that I get asked a lot about. But first, I just want to thank you so much for sharing Caden's story. As a mom of 2 little boys myself, and someone that deeply cares about early childhood education, has seen the benefits in my own son's life. I want to just say so clearly what an advocate I am of making sure that we have equitable access to early childhood education so that everyone can be recipients of their benefits. I'm running an ad right now that pushes back against my party, you might have seen it, and tells Democrats to stop the spending. I get asked a lot, what do you mean by that? What would you cut back on? And I can tell you resoundingly, one of them, the areas that I would not cut back on, is early childhood education, because we see unequivocally the return on investment that we see in our students when we invest in their early education. It cuts back on later intervention, special education, and special needs that they will need later on in life. So I'm a champion of making sure that our local schools have those resources from the federal government.
Thank you so much. And thank you for being mindful of the, of the cue cards. Kylie's doing a great job of telling us when our time is ending.
Talked about that one for a while.
So we have another community question from Benny, and Benny is an adult learner here at Reed Muskegon. So thank you so much for being with us, Benny. And when you're ready, you can ask us your question.
My name is Benny Span. I live in Muskegon for the past 50 years. I grew up in Mississippi. I have raised 9 kids and 4 grandkids and 3 great-grands. 8 of my kids graduated from high school. 3 of my kids have complete college. 2 of my grandkids have complete college. School is important to me. I never got a chance to go to school. At 70 years old, I started learning to reading. I work with Reading Muskegon. Now I can read books. Over half of the group the grown up in the USA reading below 6th grade. Then we'll need a adult ed to do the job going forward. Adult ed need more funding to offer flexibility school time of students. The students are often work full-time and raising a family. I know somebody who worked 12 hours a day, Thursday through Sunday. He could go to school if it was often Monday through Wednesday. He cannot go to school Monday through Friday. A lot of previous workers' job which scale like this. Would you support more funding for adult ed so that was more flexibility, school time, which means more teachers too? If not, why not?
You, Benny, for sharing your story. We appreciate you, Benny, and we're glad you're here, and thank you for that question. So, candidates, what would you feel about Benny's question there about would you support continued funding for greater flexibility to adult education providers to really meet the needs of learners that, like Benny's example, are maybe working and during the regular hour of operation don't have access? What would you do to support expanding those tools and that access? So go ahead, Jerry.
Well, I think one of our problems in our schools in Michigan is the idea that we have much bigger class sizes today than we've had in the past. And we need to get more money to the state so they can afford to hire more adult ed teachers, make sure we have the programs, make sure that we have everything that adult education needs. You know, of course, we're taking care of K-12 too, and we're helping out with college educations and that type of thing. But I think it's very important because the things that always get cut are the things that are needed the most in general. And so, yeah, I'd be very much in favor of increasing the funding for adult education and early start in those types of programs. I think they're very important, especially when your parents are both working and your mom and dad don't get a chance to sit down and teach you how to read and read with you in the morning. I remember my mom would always get us around in the morning and read to us because she was a stay-at-home mom, and a lot of kids don't get that opportunity.
Thank you.
Well, first, I just want to say thank you so much, Benny, for sharing your story. It is, it's the type of thing that makes a deep and lasting impression on candidates and elected officials, and it's an honor to be here tonight and hear and learn from you. It's one thing to read some statistics about what adult education can do. It's another thing to see it lived out in your tremendous success story. So thank you for sharing that. I think it is so crucial that we continue to recognize the needs along a spectrum of education, and especially for adult learners who are ready to take on a new challenge at a different stage. I agree so much with the things that Jerry said about class sizes, but I also want to address another critical component of this is that we have come so far in online learning and the flexibility that it affords to students, but there are so many individuals who don't have access to broadband internet, who don't have access to a computer, and for whom that type of technology is just out of reach. So one thing I would do is also continue to make online learning accessible to a broader range of individuals by shoring up access to broadband internet and access to that kind of technology as well. But in short, an absolute funding priority for me as well.
Thank you. We're now ready for our third question from the community, from Sarah. And Sarah is with the National Partnership for Student Success, and she is a volunteer tutor. So thank you, Sarah. We need more volunteer tutors.
Yes, I've retired here in Muskegon County about 12 years ago and learned about the programs, and Read Muskegon was one of the first ones that I started volunteering for. But I also volunteer in our schools. And it bothers me on days that I see so many of my students who, I'm a volunteer librarian, and I see kids coming in wanting to read a book, sometimes struggling to find the right book that's their comfort level, and knowing that sometimes they're struggling in class for the very reason that they're not reading at the level that the teacher is trying to get them to. But there's so many levels in that class that the teacher is struggling to try to reach all of them. There used to be programs like Reach and Host and a variety of programs that I've done tutoring in a number of communities in my 35 years of working out there as a volunteer, because my job was totally different than education, but I thought reading was important regardless. So now there is a new program that has been put out. It's the National Partnership for Student Success, and it's an initiative to deploy 2,500 Yeah, 250,000, excuse me, adults. The number's so big, I'm overwhelmed. As tutors, as mentors, and as coaches to specifically focus on the critical educational and mental health challenges that our students in K through 12, especially post-COVID. We know we've lost ground, our kids lost ground, and we've got to make that up. This initiative will work for the next 3 years to at least get us back or hopefully closer to process, but it's going to work through AmeriCorps, every graduate center, and Department of Education. So it's going to be asking for additional funding, and again, I'm asking, is that something that you can support? And how would you help us? Could you be a tutor? That would be awesome.
That is absolutely something I'd love to consider. My husband loves to joke with me that I have an inability to say no to things. So you caught me at the right time. Both of my parents have been, not only was my mom a special education teacher, but both of them in their retirement have committed to tutoring elementary students in our community about who have experienced significant learning loss after COVID. And I think that this is such a great partnership. I was actually just reading about it the other day, and it's a great way for us to not, as taxpayers, fund the entire cost of the intervention that is needed. These public-private partnerships and relying on the goodwill and volunteerism that is so strong in the American spirit, I think just embodies the best of who we are as Americans. And so I think that while there is seed money that we certainly will need to fund a program like this is such a great investment, because what you're getting is all kinds of, free or reduced cost volunteer hours in exchange. So,
thank you.
As I mentioned earlier, I teach economics, and investing in education is not a cost. It pays us back more than it costs us to do it. So whenever it comes to funding, people can say, oh, big spending Democrats or whatever they want to say, but when it comes to education, we need to be big spenders because it pays us back more than it costs us to educate people. And not just in college educations and that kind of stuff, but it lowers crime, people have better jobs, the economy functions better. There are so many reasons to support the kind of programs that we're talking about today. And because a high cost is not a reason not to do it. It's imperative that we do these things. It pays us back.
Thank you both for sharing. And I would say, even if you're not able to serve as a volunteer tutor, there's lots of other ways to be involved. So I would refer you to Melissa or any of the staff, and they can find you or anyone interested in the audience in being a better advocate and being engaged. So thank you all for that. We're moving on to our last question of the evening, which is from Santana. And Santana is an educator with the Reed-Muskegon program. And Reed-Muskegon program, and works between the education system and providing these services in the incarceration setting, so institutional setting. So thank you. Go ahead, Santana.
Hi, good evening. Yes, my name is Santana Aker, and I am the adult literacy instructor for the Reed-Muskegon nonprofit organization. Part of my assignment with Reed-Muskegon is to teach a general literacy course to incarcerated men. These men are all in transition from incarceration to being the general population and are enrolled in either the exit or KPAP programs here in Muskegon. Recently in class, we have discussed the educational opportunities that are available within the penitentiary system. And during these discussions, we had one topic brought forward the most, and that is all of the educational programs were canceled due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and most have not been reinstated. So these men have asked me to present the panel with this question. Do you support using federal funds to help reinstate the educational programs lost during the pandemic? Why or why not?
Well, That's an easy question. Of course, I would support that. Like I said, it pays you back. You know, when we educate people, then these people have had problems apparently in the past, and those are the ones we need to help the most. And so they become good members of society and contribute to everything that's going on in a good way.
Investing in prison initiatives that educate incarcerated individuals has one of the highest, demonstrably highest returns on investment when we look at recidivism rates and ability to reintegrate. My husband is a professor at Calvin University, and we've had the opportunity to be involved in their prison initiative, which goes in and helps incarcerated men receive an associate's degree and then offers an opportunity to come and get a bachelor's with a scholarship at the university afterwards. And it has a 99% graduation rate, 100% employment rate, and a 100% success rate in preventing recidivism. How can you argue with that? You know, when I was growing up, my mom always told me, if you can read, you can do anything. And there's just no question that this is where we need to be investing our resources and reinvesting, especially at such a critical time when we are seeing rising crime rates in our larger urban populations.
Thank you so much. We're now moving into our closing statements, so each of you will have a minute. And please reiterate the race that you're running for, as well as kind of, if you were elected, how would you continue to support adult skill building and adult literacy and investments in that area? So thank you. Go ahead, Hillary.
Well, thank you all so much for taking the time to be here. I know for me personally, there is nowhere else that I would rather be this evening than right here, being responsive to and engaged with the concerns of our community about this issue. It's a shame that my opponent did not take the time to show up tonight. This is an open seat, right? There's not an incumbent here. We are both applying for the same job. And I want to make sure that I am here to listen to you, because showing up is the job. How can you be a good representative if you're not there and you're not responding to the needs of the community? Again, as the daughter of a public school teacher, as a mom of 2 school-aged kids myself, there is nothing more important to me than making sure the parents and the learners in our community know that I'm here and fighting for them.
Thank you. So once again, I'm Jerry Hilliard, and I'm running for CD2. The new CD that has rural Muskegon County in it. And I've worked really hard over the last year to get myself known out in the Muskegon area, in the rural Muskegon. I've been every place that you need to be many times. This is my full-time job, trying to get elected. I think that there's so much more I can do as opposed to my Republican opponent who's not here tonight. Granted, he is in D.C., but he certainly should have had an advisor here or somebody to speak on his behalf. And so, you know, they have funding for that. So it's just, you know, lack of caring. He believes because he's in a very red district, he doesn't have to go to things like this. I've experienced this this is the 3rd time I've ran against him. So. But I'll be the guy that's there and listening to you and doing things for you, and that's what I'm doing this for. I'm not a rich guy. I'm just a guy who had a good life and at least I have enough, you know, retirement money so that I can do something like this that I hope will be good for everybody. So when I go to Washington, I'll bring up the things nobody else wants to bring up. And those are the things I'll fight for. One big disappointment to me right now is all this talk about inflation. And, you know, there's 2 sides to inflation. Wages are growing, but inflation is growing faster. That's not a good thing. That's a recipe for doom for our economy in the long run. So we have to start raising minimum wages. We have to look at a living wage for everything. Social Security should be at least a living wage. And, you know, yeah, it costs us to do something like that, but it pays us back.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you. So appreciate that. So thank you to both of the candidates for their time. We appreciate you. We wish you luck in the general election, and thank you all to our audience, both in person and online, for tuning in. A special thank you to the staff of Michigan's Children, and in particular Terry Bannis over here in the corner, who was very instrumental in planning this forum. We appreciate you. And thank you all for joining us, and we will see you again soon. Thank you.